Another issue that we're seeing is the challenges of attracting and retaining child welfare professionals. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how it impacts children and families?
Certainly. So the child welfare workforce is not unlike any other workforce in West Virginia or across the country right now that is struggling to hire and retain qualified workforce. We have made some significant improvements and we've been able to significantly reduce our turnover rate. So that is improving, and I'm hoping over the course of the next couple of years that will bear some significant fruit. But ultimately, when you talk about our workforce, you're talking about the ability to spend time, quality time, with families and trying to preserve the family unit or provide the appropriate amount of services in the event that the child is removed from the family. So our caseload is what our caseload is, and our workforce is what our workforce is. So those two things have a direct impact on one another. So the fewer workers we have, the higher the caseload is. The higher the caseload is, then that compounds the problem that workers are facing and limits the amount of time that they're able to spend on any one child or any one family. So it is a very, very difficult problem with no easy solutions.
So, Greg, this is not a question that I think people think about a lot, but can churches and others in the community have an impact on workforce issues at CPS? And what types of things can they do? And can you give us any examples of that?
Absolutely can. I think the first thing, and Commissioner Pack mentioned this, is to really look at when there is this turnover, what's the impact on kids? What's the impact on families? So there was a study that came out a few years ago from the National Center on Crime and Delinquency that tied back child welfare worker turnover and permanency and found that children that have one social worker achieve permanency. Permanency is this idea of a permanent home, either reunification with the family or with kinship or adoption. The children that had one social worker during their experience achieved permanency 75% of the time. It's an amazing number. If there was one single change and they had turnover in their work, in their social worker, it went down to 18%. So it's huge. Now that's a correlation, but it still starts to say something. We've seen in other parts of the country that when the church gets engaged and starts just supporting in very deep ways and meaningful ways local child welfare workers, that it does have an impact on turnover. We've seen increase in the emotional stability and the social connection of these workers. So this past year here in West Virginia, we participated in something called National Hospitality Week. And to be honest, it was a national experiment that a couple large faith-based nonprofits, one in Portland, Oregon, and one in Charlotte, North Carolina, kind of led. And the idea was to take 1 week during the year and work with churches and organizations and just show radical hospitality and kind of love in action for these organizations. We saw many, about 17 churches across the state, participate in this, where they took lunches, Chick-fil-A lunches, Italian lunches, bagged deli lunches. They sent thank you cards. They had foster families in the church write thank you cards to the workers. They sent gift cards. They hosted dinners. And one church even sent candy bar bouquets. But they engaged, and there's something we heard that I didn't expect. Jeff would have known it was coming, but I didn't expect. From almost every office that these churches engaged with, all the workers said, nobody ever just comes and thanks us. We never hear this from the community. So the idea of this National Hospitality Week was not that it would be a one-time thing.
You know, I think about lots of things in the course of a day of what I have to deal with and what comes across my desk. And the vast majority of things, I believe, could be solved or dramatically improved if the workforce challenge were solved.
Yes.
And if I had a magic wand that I could wave across the state that I could fix any one thing relative to what we deal with, it would be the workforce, because that is the linchpin to our success.
Absolutely. And I think it's hard from the outside to realize what that workforce goes through on a daily basis. I mean, very often your staff is showing up with first responders. They are removing children from homes that don't want to leave, and they are experiencing their own trauma. And if we don't care for them, we see the statistics, 75% versus 18%. It's dramatic. If we don't care for them and show them some love and action just the same way, we won't get out of this. We won't get out of this constant churn.